you pay someone, and like you also need to pay yourself and need to pay for groceries. So it makes you feel like you have to go out there more and maybe pitch to brands or put your big girl panties on and not put the smiley face in the email because you need to be a business person. You have people that you account for. You know what I mean? You take yourself a little more seriously and you have more of a business brain, I guess.
That was Taylor Kiser, and this is episode 57 of the Chopped Podcast. Hey everyone, I'm Marley of the blog Namely Marley. Thanks for joining me today for the 57th episode of the Chopped Podcast. You know this is the podcast designed for people just like you, bloggers who love food. My goal each week is to share with you interviews, thoughts, stories, everything related to food blogging so that we can all learn together about what works with food blogging and maybe even a little bit about what doesn't. Today, I'm talking with Taylor Kiser of the site Food, Faith, and Fitness. But before we get to that, I just want to say, well, we just came off of Easter weekend and wow, was that a busy time. My sisters and my mom and one of my nieces came over. It was kind of a small family dinner for what we're used to, but you wouldn't tell it from the amount of food that we had. We had a lot of food. I mean, a lot. That's one thing about food bloggers, right? We love food, so we make a lot of it. And besides, everyone else brought stuff too, so it just kind of made it a big family potluck. That leads me to a topic, though, that was discussed in a food blogging group that I'm a part of, and that is food waste. It sounded like the discussion in this group was that there was a lot of food waste that goes on from the blogger's perspective, and I wanted to speak to that for a moment. I just want to say we eat everything we share on the site, so we don't end up with a lot of waste. Of course, I have to clarify, it helps that I have a husband who has one of those revved up metabolisms. I'll just say this, he can eat a lot. I wish I had that, but oh well, whatever. If it happens that I do a lot of recipes all at the same time, which does happen from time to time, I just freeze those leftovers and then, obviously we can unfreeze them at a time later when we need some food. Sometimes I will send them home with other people too, but we try never to throw out good food. That said, I realize sometimes we're recipe testing, and so that means we'll be trying something and I don't know, it just doesn't work out. Sean will typically eat it anyway. That's just how he is. He's very passionate against the concept of food waste, and so he will eat things that I won't touch. But, at the same time, there are still some times when, it's just so bad. Not so much lately, but this definitely has happened previously that, been something let's say I left out some crucial ingredient or whatever. It just was, or just a terrible combination. It was an idea in my head and it didn't work out very well. So it would have to be pretty bad for Sean to actually turn it down. But anyway, I would love to open up this discussion. What do you do about preserving food when you're busy in the kitchen and you've got a surplus of cooked dishes? I would love to hear from you. Send me an email or a shout out on social media. I'd love to hear how you handle that. Okay, now back to the topic of that interview with Taylor. She and I met at Chopped Conference last year, and she is such a talented blogger, and it was such a great opportunity to meet her in person. So she and I talked about the topic of finding support for your blog. Look, there is so much to do with a blog, and you know this, right? I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know. Blogging is a lot of work, and Taylor has just found a great and inspiring way of building a virtual team to help her get her work done really efficiently and cost effectively. And I love the tips that she shared, and I think you will too. There are lots of ways you can build support for your creative entrepreneur work. You can hire a housekeeper or a virtual assistant. I read a comment from one blogger that said she negotiated with her husband to cook more dinners during the week, which I thought was a really great idea. In fact, all of these are great ideas. And if you worry about spending money, remember that, you're helping the economy when you hire someone to do work that they love so that you can do work that you love. It's all, very, what is the word for that? Asynchronous? Simpatico. I like that word. So let's get right to it. Today, we've got a unique intro shout out to Jen of the site Bakerette, who said she was listening to the Chop podcast recently while taking a bath. Ooh la la. I have to confess, Jen, that it made me a little nervous because, I was worried that you could, I would be worried I would drop the phone in the tub. Not at least until next year when the iPhone goes waterproof. Okay, everyone. So in honor of Jen, get out your bubble bath, put your iPhone on speaker, light a few candles, and let's talk about all things food blogging and so much more. Hey everyone, I'm happy to have Taylor Kiser of the site Food, Faith, Fitness on the show today. Taylor, welcome to the Chopped Podcast.
Thanks, Marley. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to have you, and I'm really looking forward to talking with you today about a couple of things, including the fact that, your site has really taken off so quickly and learning more about that, but also the fact that you've used virtual team as part of your blogging process, and I think that's something a lot of people are going to find very interesting. But first, before we get into all of that, let's take a little step back, and I'm just curious what it is that caused you to start your food blog.
So basically, I was managing a dental office, and teeth are not my thing. Teeth are just kind of there, right? So, and then I started dating my husband, well, now husband, he wasn't then. And I'd go to work every day and then come back and just watch the Food Network all day. And that's literally all I did. I didn't go out with friends. I just watch the Food Network. And he's like, Taylor, you just kind of need a hobby. And I was like, oh, maybe I do. And he's like, why don't you start a blog? And so he was the one that told me to start a blog. And I didn't even really know what a blog was. I didn't even read a lot of blogs. I was just like, hey, cool. And then I just kind of started one.
I love that. Sometimes inspiration can come from other things besides yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, you were behind a lot of that inspiration because he saw you watching the Food Channel, right?
I guess so, yeah. So I'll give the credit to him and to Bobby Flay.
And I give some of the credit to you because it's one thing to hear that and it's another to take action on it. So
okay, I'll take a little piece of it.
Cool. And so have you always been interested in cooking? I mean, obviously there was something that caused you to want to watch that cooking show.
From a little girl, my aunt was this crazy, amazing chef, not trained or anything, but I would go to her house for sleepovers and we would just have baking sleepovers. And I'd sleep over and we'd do whatever. And in the morning we would just bake all the things, cookies. They weren't healthy, which is obviously my spin now. But that's kind of where I started learning how to cook and bake. And I started to love it from just those moments. Food is meant to be shared. And I shared those times with her. And then it kind of went from there.
Oh, that's great. But, just because you had those moments, sometimes that doesn't always translate into your own cooking. So I imagine this time with your aunt, and I imagine you watching the Food Network and these cooking shows. And then you were also spending time in your own kitchen trying out these new dishes?
Yeah, so I guess when I first got married, which was almost 3 years ago, then obviously I grew up with my family and my mom, she wasn't the best cook. She wasn't terrible or anything. She didn't burn toast, but she made dinner. So I didn't do a lot. But then when I got married and moved out, I was like, oh shoot. Well, I guess I got to fend for myself now. And I couldn't do laundry. That's so embarrassing. So I figured I should really focus on my cooking skills. So I started to go on Pinterest and had a recipes to try board, and I would start cooking dinner. And then from there sort of grew into my own thing.
That's really cool. And I also know that you have like you said earlier, kind of your own spin on these recipes because you try to make them healthy.
Yes. That came from, this is personal. I don't know if you want this on there, but yeah. When I was 12 or 13, I had an eating disorder. I was severely anorexic and I was hospitalized for 5 weeks, and they actually didn't know how I lived through it. So obviously that was an ordeal. I obviously got through it. I still have some issues around food, but that obviously made me love healthy food because I learned that I need food to nourish my body, and I learned how to make it healthy but taste good. And it's sort of repairing my relationship with it through learning how to nourish my body, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think sometimes it's, with food, it's not one of those things that you get to be away from. If somebody's an alcoholic, they can easily, not easily, but, they can be in a program and they can learn to not be around alcohol. But food is kind of different. You have to figure it out.
It's there all the time. You need it to live. It's at every social function, which for a recovering anorexic is the scariest thing on planet Earth. And it's just, like you said, it's just always there. So you have to learn how to be okay with that. And that's why I started to like healthy food.
Oh, that's cool. I like that story. And do you think you found that spot? You're okay with it all now?
There's still days. I'm a food blogger, and just because I make a paleo brownie doesn't mean it's 0 calories.
I know.
So, I'm just I'm scared. I've tried 5,000 brownies today. I think that's normal just for a woman,
yes.
but especially for me.
I feel the same way. Like sometimes when I'm testing recipes, it's like I may have a day that it's like I don't really. I just have some days where I don't really feel like I want to eat a lot, and then yet I'm in the kitchen and I'm testing these recipes. You have to try, and then one bite leads to another. It's like
exactly.
Yes.
And it's like you're supposed to like learn intuitive eating and eat when you're hungry, but when you're a food blogger and you're not hungry ever because you're eating all day, it's like, what do you do?
Yeah, and and all these people, they always say, just don't have the temptation around. Well, we have to have the temptation around, so we have to learn.
I don't pay my bills without the temptation, like, you know what I mean?
Yes, we can make boring food, but nobody's going to come to our site for that.
Exactly. So it's just a hard thing sometimes, but I'm alive and well and stuff, so.
Yes. Well, I'm glad. I'm really glad about that. And I'm glad that, you've got this site and it's helping you kind of through all that. But another thing that's really amazing about your site is your food photography skills. In fact, if I recall correctly, it seems like I just got an email from, was it Ahology, that they featured your photography as a great example of, how to take your photography to the next level.
Yeah, they did like a little write-up doodad on me where they answered, gave me some questions and featured some photos and stuff like that. Of course, they picked the photos I don't even like.
I was like, I know Taylor.
Oh, you're so cute.
I know her. I'll have to get you to autograph that website for me.
I'll send you an autograph email.
I love it. But yes, your food photography is beautiful, and I was just hoping you could kind of talk for a few minutes about how that happened for you. I mean, did you start out just immediately knowing you wanted to take amazing photographs, or is that something that you had to learn over time?
Oh gosh, the first shoot was like, when I first started my blog, was my little digicam, and like me and my husband, like I told him to help, which I never have done since the first time because I was awful. And that's like on my little coffee table with this weird napkin and like this digicam and like totally yellow artificial light, and it was just like, it's still on my blog, my first post ever, and it's like this mahi, and it was just like, it was awful. And from there, I learned that I really needed a DSLR. So I got like, your little Canon Rebel, the one that everyone starts off with. And then I just Googled, and I honestly have never taken a course or anything. I just kind of learned from the Google master.
So you must have had, you have a particular style though. So you maybe, did you uncover that as you were going along? Like, hey, this is a style that I just really love.
Yeah, like obviously when I started a blog, I started reading a lot of blogs, and then you see other people's photos, and I really learned that I loved more of like the dark and moody, like shadowy photos. So I kind of started to learn and Googled like, how to take dark and moody photos was like literally what I Googled. And I just kind of learned how to do that. And I'm actually soon, side note, I'm releasing a e-course on it. But
on how to do dark food photography?
Yes.
Nice. That's really
that'll
good.
Be fun. Yeah.
Because I think each style of food photography, or every style, comes with its own unique challenges.
Oh gosh, a lot of the reason why I do dark and moody is because like I feel like I struggle with like the super bright white, and like that's what Pinterest wants. So like I wish I was better at it, but that's like my thing. I'm not that good at it, so I just don't do it that much. And I live in Seattle, and it's always cloudy, so I can't even get bright anyways. It's always raining.
You work with what you've got, right?
Yeah, it's gonna rain, so I'm just gonna learn how to do it.
I love it. That's really cool. Okay, so what's your favorite part about food blogging so far?
Food blogging so far, I love it all for the most part. I have to say my favorite part is the photography, but it's also like a like and a hate, a love and a hate, because I am such a perfectionist. Like I literally just shot chicken wings this morning, and it took me like 2 hours because I'm like picking the chicken wing, does it look better here or there, and does the window look better this much open or this much open, and it's just like I get like sucked into it, and then I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I haven't eaten breakfast and it's like 2:00 in the afternoon, and I just get like so involved, so I get like annoyed with myself, but I also love it at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yes, it makes sense because you're just so into it. It's like you're not even aware that it's 2:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah, and then I'm like, oh shoot, now I have 40 other bazillion things I have to get done, so I guess I won't sleep tonight. Woo! You know. Yes.
So was that your answer to what's your favorite part about food blogging?
Yeah, it's photography. It's like I said, it's a love and a hate, but it is still my favorite part.
So what if I asked you the question, what's something that you don't like about food blogging so much? Would it be the same answer?
No, that would be, oh gosh, my least favorite. Honestly, this is my own fault, probably. This is my answer. Just the amount of hours that I work. I know a lot of bloggers work this way, just because when you work from home and your computer's there and you're in your workspace all day long, I feel like it's so easy to overwork, and I just don't take a lot of time off.
Yeah. It's easy to spend a lot of time on it.
Exactly. And again, that's my own doing.
Well, it just seems like everything about food, I mean, every little part about food blogging could be its own full-time job.
Oh, totally. Completely.
And yet there's a lot of one people out there doing everything.
I know. I don't think people really realize that. Like when I say I'm a food blogger, they're just like, oh, LOL, so you're unemployed. I'm just like, no.
Yeah, I'm sitting around making cookies and...
Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
that's all I do. No, not at all.
Well, one thing I think was really exciting about your blog is that you really took off quickly. And I think you mentioned to me that you were able to quit your job. Was it within a year?
A year. Yeah, exactly a year.
Wow. I bet your husband was really surprised.
That's part of the reason why I was able to quit is because he's amazing and he helped support when I quit.
Yes, I see what you're saying.
So,
that
yeah.
that was a helpful to have his support behind that was really important.
Yeah, and especially because like he's a nurse, so he works shift work. So he does like only 4 days a week at 12 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So for the first couple weeks of my, like we had talked about it because I was working full time and doing my blog, and like I was a basket case mental person. Like our relationship was like just crap because I was just like blogging and tired and just yelling at him. So we kind of made the decision that like things were starting to move on the blog. And since he only worked 4 days a week and I was like effectively working like 1,000 hours a day, he picked up like one extra shift and worked 5. And then that kind of like helped income for the first couple months. And then obviously he was able to go back to working, you know, my blog took off and now I'm doing fine in that area. And so he was able to go back to working more normal hours.
Well, that was really cool to have that kind of support like that. I mean, do you think that if you had like a secret sauce to your quick success, that kind of support was really a big part of it? Is there anything else that you can think of?
Honestly, like I said before, I work a lot of hours, hard work. You have to, that saying, they build it and they will come is true. I mean, you have to put the hours in and you have to create quality content because doesn't matter if you create 1,000 recipes that aren't very good, but if you spend your time really creating great content, people will come. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen to you in a year because like I feel like I'm terrible at comparison, but everyone grows at a different rate.
Right.
So just you have to work hard, put your head down and grind it out.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to ask you more about that here in a minute, but first I wanted to kind of segue into the main topic of what we're going to talk about today, which is I love that you have talked about how you have basically, you've hired virtual assistants to be a part of a team to help you with certain things that you do. And I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about the kinds of VAs that you've hired for various tasks.
Yeah, sure. So are you wanting to know what they do or where I found them or what?
Yeah, let's start with what they've done for you, the kinds of tasks that you've hired them for.
So I have a few VAs. So what they do is, I'm sure bloggers listening to this know all about the Facebook sharing groups in the morning.
Yes.
Which was like they hated it before. I just hated it so much. So they do all my link dropping and then they reciprocate on all the links, like tweet 3 if you drop 1 or whatever. So they do that. And then I have one that schedules like other people's pins, like through Tailwind.
Yeah.
So she goes and does all that. And then I have someone who creates roundups every other week for me on my blog. I have someone who creates BuzzFeed roundups every single week for BuzzFeed. And then I have someone who schedules all my tweets. I mean, it's not one person does something. Like I have 3 or 4 VAs and they all share these tasks, not like one person for every task. Then I have someone who schedules my tweets of like all my new content, and then she goes through my old content and just like schedules old recipes just, so they can get seen. And then I just hired someone today, actually, to start deleting pins for me, like really old pins, because I'm getting scared that I'm going to hit that pin limit because I'm already at 100,000 and you only get 200,000, and I've only been blogging for, 2 years. So
You're on a
I'm like, oh my gosh.
fast track.
I pin a lot. I think that's it for the most part, which is a lot.
It is a lot, and I think it sounds really great. I mean, it's funny. I hear people will talk about how you should do roundups and how easy they are because you don't have to provide your own content. And I think those are people who have never done a roundup because they are a lot of work.
It takes time.
Yes.
You make the image and then throw the links in and make sure you typed all the proper blog names.
Yes.
Yeah, it's awful.
Well, and then afterwards, I feel like if you really want to get some good juice out of that roundup, like I will go and tweet them and I'll link to all those people and say, hey, thanks for being part of this roundup. I mean, obviously you can't do them all in one tweet, but
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's a very time consuming to have roundups, but they're so effective.
Oh gosh, Pinterest loves them because no one wants to go and look at 100 pins when they can go to one pin and see 100 recipes. You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly. Right.
So
So
they're
those
great.
those are all really good things. And so I'm just curious, like, have you found that freeing yourself of those things that maybe you don't really like to do as much, has that helped you, like, I don't know, like, I imagine all this really cool creative brain juice that you can
Yes.
now use for things that are more profitable.
Actually, yes. Like I said, I was doing that photo course. Like I wasn't
Yes.
able to do that before, but now I was able to have time because wasn't doing stupid crap like scheduling tweets all day
Yes.
long. So I'm doing that, and then I'm also sleeping, which is nice.
Sleeping is very good.
I enjoy that, and I actually like spending some time with my husband at night, which is kind of cool.
Right.
So, but I'm living more normal, and then I'm also having more time to create other content and spend more time on photography, which I probably don't need to, but I just do because I want to, and just that kind of stuff. So it's honestly been like the best decision of like my whole life.
Wow, that's really great. And I'm just curious, now we can ask that question about, we can talk about that issue of where did you find, I mean, that's the other issue. Like, let's say someone has the
Yes.
idea, I'm going to hire a VA. The next question is, where do you find the right person?
So where I have found all my people are, I don't know if you know Upwork.com.
Yes,
It used to be Elance.
Uh-huh.
So the thing with Upwork is it's like people from across, the sea and the Philippines and Thailand and stuff. But they're really talented, and there's a bit of a language barrier, yes, I will be honest, for a lot of them. But they do work for a very good rate, a lot lower than you'll find a VA in the States.
Yes.
And they're just as talented, and you're giving them, like, the rate that you pay them is very low for us, but for them it's a really, really good living.
Right.
So I've actually found a lot of people on there, and you can basically put exactly what you need, exactly what you're looking for, and people apply, and they do cover letters, and you can ask them all sorts of questions, and you can really go in depth with them before clicking hire. So I found a lot of people on there, actually all my people on there.
That's great. And you feel like it's been great relationships that you've been able to forge?
Yeah, I mean, I had one person that didn't really work out. She was just like a little bit slow or whatever then, and it wasn't really saving me any money in the long term because if you take X longer to do it at a cheaper rate, it's not that good.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you just go on there, and it takes time. Like first when I was like, oh, I'm going to hire everything out, and then like I was like, oh my gosh, now I have to interview everyone, and that takes time. So you have to remember that, of course. But once you go through that process, like I've got some really great people that I really genuinely like, and like I would be friends if we were living in the same part of the world.
Nice. That's
So
very
you can
nice.
meet some really cool people.
Yeah, and then they start to believe, enjoy being a part of your brand, which is great.
Exactly.
Yes. Now, let's talk about that one that didn't work out. Was it, I mean, I imagine that you had to fire this person.
Yeah. Which
Was that hard?
I'm so bad at like
I
any
know.
confrontation. Like I'm the queen of like
Yes.
smileys and business emails, which I don't do. But I'm like, I need to put a smiley in this business email, but I can't. Like
Yeah.
I just, so it was very hard. But they understood. You just can't work with everyone in the whole world, unfortunately.
And then that person is free to then, find another job with better meets their needs. So
Exactly. I didn't want to keep someone and like be harboring this like, oh, I wish I didn't have you, and I know they could go out and find. There's a bazillion people that want to hire a VA.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, let's talk about now. Okay, let's say you've created, you've got this thing that you want to have done on your site, and you've found the person. I mean, I think it's so easy to say, oh, I'm going to hire a virtual assistant to handle all my Pinterest. They're going to schedule all my pins for me. But in reality, there's a lot that goes on there. So for example, like, you internally know all these things, like you want them to pin these kinds of pins, and you want the pins to look a certain way, or you don't want them to have, like, maybe you don't want pins that have sugar in them because that's important to you or whatever.
Right.
That kind of stuff to communicate is not always easy.
No.
How do you do that?
So first, like for my tasks that I wanted them to do, I don't know if you know the website screencast-o-matic.com.
I've actually been there just today. That's really funny that you say that.
Oh.
Yes.
So you go on it and it's free, and you can like record your screen, so like what you're doing on your screen. So that's how I trained all my assistants. Was I went through my daily tasks and that I would be doing anyways, and just did this little screencast. And you can talk, and like it will record your audio, what you're saying, and it'll show your cursor and everything. So I just made all these little screencasts, which again I didn't allot the time for. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is taking way too long. But you have to allot the time for that, and then you just upload it to YouTube, and they watch it, and then of course they can ask questions, and then I like doing it that way as opposed to like typing it at once, because they have this video that they can always refer back to until they're totally comfortable doing it. You know what I mean?
Yes. That's so great. And do you then, let's say they do it for the first time, do you go and check their work and make sure it's good?
Yeah, especially with Pinterest, because I like to have, really pretty pins and all that stuff. And that was a really tough one for my first assistant, because I guess everyone has different tastes in photography.
Yeah.
Like, she'd pin something that I would just think was just completely unpinnable. And she'd be like, I thought it was the best photo ever. So, like, you just have to go through, and I just, like, went through and checked what they pinned, and I would be like, no, this is not good. And, like, for Tailwind, I would just pin a bunch of stuff to my drafts that I liked.
Ah, good idea.
And then she could go through my drafts and schedule them at the same time, so it saved her work. And then she would just get an idea of what I like, and that way, like, we eventually got it, and now she is great. She's got great eye for photos.
Well, the other thing that's kind of challenging about Pinterest is some of the group boards, like let's say if you're having her pinned to certain boards, some of those group boards have strict rules about what kind of pins can go on what board. Yes.
So I have told her I have certain boards I just tell her not to pin to, because it's like once a day, and I like to manually pin to that board at like a certain time, because I know it's like the best time to get repinned or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'd say ignore these boards, and then some that I know are really strict about the rules, I'll tell her, and she kind of has like a little spreadsheet, I guess, or however she organizes it with how to pin, and then she just does it that way. I honestly don't super check up on that with her, but I've never gotten into trouble from any of the group board owners, so I'm assuming that she's doing okay.
That's good. And I imagine it's one of those things where it takes a little work at the beginning, but then after a while you kind of get on a roll, right?
Yeah, it's like when you set a board booster, if you ever have it. It takes like forever at first, and then it just does its thing.
Do you use Board Booster?
I do.
Yeah. So you have Tailwind and Board Booster.
I got all the things, Marley.
I love it. It's so good.
Yeah. So anything that'll help me.
I mean, was there one that was a little bit harder to train on? Like, Pinterest is one thing, like you mentioned, we talked about the, creating the roundups. Was that a little bit harder to train somebody on?
Not really. That was pretty easy. I'm trying to think of what would have been the hardest thing to train someone on. Probably Pinterest, honestly, just because I am so like meticulous and like perfectionist about the images. Actually, I changed my answer. The morning sharing groups was hard, because I'm a part of like 42 bazillion sharing groups, and they all have different rules. Yeah. So I had to make her this whole like Word doc. This group, you do this, and it has this rules. And at first, she was so overwhelmed. I felt so bad, but now it's like autopilot. Yeah. So that was hard.
Now she can just go in there and boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
That's really cool, and I think it's such an important thing to think about. Like we said before, it frees up you from these. I mean, if we're supposed to be the CEO of our food blogs, it's really hard if we're also doing these very mundane tasks.
You just can't. And I feel like bloggers are almost scared to like start thinking more modern. Like, you have to think like an entrepreneur, and like you have to be okay with delegating out your tasks. Like, you're not just as a little person that creates food all day. Like, you have other things, and you need to allow yourself to outsource that, and then you will be able I don't know if I'm even making sense. No, but I feel like people like are stuck in their own little brain that they can't get help, and they're so control freaky, which I am the biggest control freak. So it was hard. If I can do it, and like anyone can give up.
Yes, it's true. And I do think if you are looking at this as a business, if it's a hobby, that's great. But if you really are looking at this as a business, then finding ways to invest in your business is really important. And maybe it's not hiring a VA, because maybe you've decided you want to do some of the things, but in reality, I just think like evaluating and deciding what you're going to invest in.
And worst comes to worst, you try it and it doesn't work, and then you don't do it anymore. Like, no one's going to die.
That's right. Exactly. You can just say we're not doing this anymore, and it's over, right? You send an email.
Exactly. So just try it out. And like, I was like, hey, maybe I won't like it, but like, it had just been so great to have help. It's just been so great.
Yes, I'm curious if there were any other side benefits of having a virtual team, basically, and that is, like, could they suggest different ways to do things? I mean, maybe if you're working with people from other countries, that doesn't happen as much. I don't know, but have they ever come to you with ideas of different ways of doing things?
Not really. I have thought about like maybe hiring like a brand strategist to help me think of other things. That's not something I've hired yet, but it's on like my horizon, and then of course, that would be their job, is to help me think of other ways, because I'm only one person, and I feel like I can be creative, but you can only be so creative. Yes. You need two brains. So not yet, But one day I'm sure that's going to happen.
Yeah. So, well, and the other side benefit I could think of is, talk about feeling like the boss. Like it's hard to, when you're just boss of yourself, it's one thing, but when you're actually telling other people, then I wonder if it like helps you take things more seriously.
I feel like for me it has, because like you're almost, not like I'm in charge of other people's lives. Like I don't want to be that, like think I'm that awesome, because I don't at all. But like, you pay someone, and like you also need to pay yourself and need to pay for groceries. So it makes you feel like you have to go out there more and maybe pitch to brands, or put your big girl panties on and not put the smiley face in the email, because you need to be a business person. You have people that you account for. You know what I mean?
Right.
You take yourself a little more seriously, and you have more of a business brain, I guess.
I love it. That's really good. Okay, so do you have any other things you want to point out about working with VAs?
Just if you do get a VA, just give them time. And also this is why I have so many, is because some people think that they can find the perfect VA, and it's an amazing person that can create them Canva images, and they can schedule their tweets and their pins, and they can do their sharing groups, and if you can't do everything, don't expect that one other person can do everything. Everyone has different skills, and you have to be okay with having a couple different people that can do those skills.
That's really important, because that's a lot of pressure to put on somebody.
Yeah, it is. And then you have this high standard of and you should have a high standard of what they can do, but like that is an unrealistic expectation to expect that someone can do all the things. So it's okay to have a couple different people.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, they're almost like a full-time employee if you've got something like that. I guess that's another reason that's having several would be good, is because, I heard somebody they called it 1099 workforce.
Yes, I love that. I haven't heard that, but exactly that's what it is.
Yeah, that actually leads me to another question. Are there any tax implications? I can't even talk. Are there any tax implications for, working with the VAs at Upwork?
Actually, I'm not 100% sure, because Upwork they do all the contracting and stuff. They do it all. So it's great. You just post your little job, takes you 5 minutes, people apply, and that's all they have like a little time tracker, which the person that you hire goes in on, and you can see what they're doing and check their time to make sure they're actually doing it, and takes like little pictures of their screen as they're working, so you can actually see they're not putting like, oh, I worked 5 hours and they were like on YouTube. You can actually see what they can do.
Wow, that's nice.
So yeah, it's really cool. I really, really like it.
Yeah, that's really cool, and not to have to deal with the taxes and all that is really great too.
It is a pain, so it's nice.
Let's transition a little bit to your blog and the process that you use for creating posts. So I'm just curious, let's say you're working, I think you talked about paleo brownies. Let's say you're working on a paleo brownie post. What goes into that for you, and how does that actually turn into something that's alive on your site?
Well, first I have to get the idea. So I have a little note in my phone, which has I call it Tate Creates, because my nickname is Tate, and that's what I create. So anyways, I call it Tate Creates Ideas. And then I just whenever an idea pops in, I put it in there, which is always when I'm going to sleep for some reason. That's when I get my ideas. But so I have a little note list in there, and then the beginning of each month, or I go through the next month, because I work really far in advance. Like right now it's January 25th or whatever, and I'm working in the very end of March. I'm getting my recipes. I'm a weirdly workaholic. So anyways, so then the month later, I put all the days that I need to post, and I look at my little Tate Creates notes, and I take all the recipes that I want to do that month, and I put them in my editorial calendar. So I plan my editorial calendar. And then I know exactly what recipes I'm going to be making. And just as the weeks go by, I just knock those recipes out and just keep testing them until I need them, until they work. So if I was doing paleo brownies, it was scheduled for February 14th, because it's Valentine's Day. I'd probably be working on that the first week of January, and I usually have to do baking recipes anywhere from 3 to 10 times before they work out properly. Yes. It's not the same with dinner recipes, because they're not science. But so I'll do that, and then I'll just keep working on it, and then as soon as it's tested and I perfected it, I'll make it again to make sure it's actually perfected and not just a weird fluke of randomness. Yes. And then I will shoot it again. Then I'll shoot it, and I make sure I shoot it, and I edit it all on the same day. And then I just keep it on my computer, and then I don't write posts. Even though I work 2 months ahead, I don't write posts until the week before. Because to write a post 2 months ahead would just not be relevant at all in 2 months. So yeah, so a lot of times I'll do Instagram sneak peeks, and I kind of feel bad because I work so far in advance. Look at this great cookie that's coming to you in 6 months. But
People are like,
yeah.
I want the recipe now.
It's like you have to wait. But so I do all my recipes and photography like way early, and then post writing and like figuring out the CEO and all that fun crap is like a week or two in advance of the actual post.
Well, it sounds like a great process. Do you have anything you use for your editorial planner?
Just my note in my phone, and I accidentally deleted it once, and that was bad.
Well, you said something about an editorial, like maybe would you print out like a calendar, January, February, March, so you know where to plug in certain things, or?
I write it on when I'm doing my editorial calendar. I literally write it on a notepad on like January 1st, 3rd, 5th, and then I have my phone beside me with my little note open, and I write it on white on paper, and then I transfer it into a note on my phone once I'm done. It's not very smart.
No, it sounds, whatever works is smart if you ask me. If that works for you, that's great.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah,
until you delete it.
The cool thing about it is wherever you're at, you can go to that note and say, okay, where am I at? What recipe am I working on? And that way if you're out and about and you're out of cocoa, you can't do those brownies without it or whatever,
That's why I like it. And then if I'm responding to an email from a phone and a brand wants to know when I can post it, I can just like go to my phone and be like, or my little note and be like, oh yeah, I have a spot open this day. I don't have to be like, oh, I'll tell you when I get home. So that's kind of why I like having it on my phone.
Yes, and that way, like you say, sponsored posts as they come available, you know exactly where to plug them in.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's very cool. So how do you have like a schedule of how often that you publish in a week?
Typically, my recipes are Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then I try to do a roundup or like some sort of fitness post type of thing every other Tuesday. So like every Tuesday there's something, but whether it be a roundup or a fitness post, it goes back and forth. And then I take Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. Every other Sunday I do a Sunday reflections, which is like my thoughts on it. Right now it's kind of dealing with just repairing my relationship with food and what God is teaching me and stuff. So that's every other Sunday. But that's my schedule.
Yeah, that's great, and I like that's a lot of posting.
It is. Keeps me very busy.
And I think that's important to point out. I think a lot of people wonder if they can go outside of the avenue of food, and you kind of established that early on in that you have recipes, but you also talk about fitness and you talk about your faith, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's all in the name, so I feel like I kind of have to do food, faith, and fitness. It's majority food, but I like to put a little bit of other stuff in there too, because we don't just eat. We do other things, people,
Yes. It's interesting that you talk about that because I found myself for a while, I was just only doing recipes, and I knew that I needed to go beyond that and, just maybe have a post that talks about, things that were going on for me in the week. And I just found it to be such a struggle because I had kind of trained myself to write within the bounds of a recipe post. So,
it can be hard, but like I found that my traffic really grew also once I started doing more. And also just once you become like a real human and you write about your life and you don't just talk about food, because food's great, but people want a real person.
Yes. And it stretches you as a writer too, I think, to write beyond that as well. Which
is always good. It's always good to challenge yourself because you don't grow without a little bit of a push.
Yes, very good. Okay, so do you have a favorite social media platform that you use?
I'm going to jump on the Instagram bandwagon.
So Pinterest is for traffic, but Instagram is your heart, huh?
Yeah, Instagram is the only one that I actually enjoy. So the other ones, I just do them. I mean, I don't do them. Other people do them for me. But they do them because they have to. They have to.
Right. It's kind of like part of the business of running a food blog is you have to be on Pinterest or Facebook or whatever. But Instagram is something you do because you love.
Yes, love it. I could waste so many hours on it, and I do.
Tell me, do you have some tips for people on how you use Instagram, how it's worked for you?
Posting consistently, which is just super basic, but is honestly true. And a lot of people say they don't like putting real life stuff on there. Like they only want to have beautifully curated Instagram feeds. And if that works for you, that's great. But I find that doing majority of that, but also putting like date night with your husband or like something like that makes you a real human behind the phone. People love it. Maybe they don't get as much likes or whatever, but people, like I just did a reader survey last week, and some people even said, I love that you respond to all the Instagram comments, that you post other things, and I can see like you feel like my friend. Like I think it's about having a personality.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Not just having pretty pictures of food.
I'm so glad to hear that, because I do think there is some pressure on Instagram to stick with only these highly professional, curated looking photos, and encouragement to step outside of that and just post the things that's going on in your life is really good.
Yeah, I mean, you have to keep some enjoyment in social media. So if you want to post it, post it. Don't think, oh my gosh, is this going to represent my brand? I mean, obviously don't post you getting drunk on Friday night, but post like, be
Yes.
real, but not too real.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my advice.
Now, do you ever use those posts on Instagram in like some of your other, posts on the site too?
So sometimes when I get like, some mail from a client, like some fun food or whatever, I'll Instagram me eating it, and then when I write the post later on, I'll be like, you guys saw my post on Instagram.
Yes.
You know how much I love this or whatever, and then I you can embed your Instagram photo or whatever.
Yes.
So then I'll do that, and then it saves you a photo that you have to edit it in Lightroom because you just got one from Instagram.
I love it. That's really good. And you got good reaction from it on Instagram, so it's going to be good on the post too, right?
Exactly. Brands and clients love to see that too, so it's a win-win.
Okay, so I'm just curious, what's your number one tip for helping other food bloggers who, maybe they're just starting out on this journey?
I feel like this is like, I don't know if this is so basic, but this was what I wish I would have told myself when I first started, was that you don't have to learn it all right now. You don't have to do it all right now. I was one of those people that was like, I need to learn everything about food blogging. I need to be the proest food blogger in like the first month. And I completely missed out my first year of marriage because we got married and then I started my food blog. And like, my marriage was in the dumps. I was just unhappy and miserable and just sad and cried all the time. And I missed like so much good stuff because I just thought that like I had to learn it all now. And you don't. You just need to get like, I know Pinch of Viamoy says it was like 1% better every day.
Yes.
Like you don't need to be pro overnight. Just give yourself time to like enjoy life and enjoy blogging because it can really become not fun very fast.
Oh, that's so true. And honestly, if you have to find the joy in it, right? Because why are you doing this otherwise? Just go get a job and be miserable there.
I mean, you can work less hours going to the office, realistically. So,
yes.
So just give yourself grace is really what I really want to stress.
Oh, that's really important, to give yourself grace. That's really cool. I love it. Okay, so what's coming up next for you? Anything you can share? And I think I have a feeling I know what you're going to say.
Going to Mexico?
Well, yeah, going to Mexico. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, but that's not blogging related at all.
Yes, but I think you talked about are you working on a photography course, right?
Yes, so that is actually going to launch when I come back from Mexico. So that will be in a couple weeks, and I'm really excited. I've been working on it for like so long, and it's like one of those things you're just like, it's been your labor of love, and you just want to get it out so bad.
Yes.
So I'm very excited for that.
Is it an e-book or a course, or what is it?
It's an e-course, so it's a couple little like videos of you watch it, and it's got like little handouts and homework and all that good stuff.
I can't wait to see more about it, and we'll include a link in the show notes page, so that'll be exciting for people to be able to go and check that out.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so here we are at the end of the interview, and I just have a couple of fun, quick questions for you.
Okay.
What's one food item you can't live without?
Oh gosh, it's embarrassing. Oatmeal.
Oatmeal? That's a good one.
I love it so much.
Now, why is that embarrassing?
Because I eat it an embarrassing amount. Oh gosh.
Yes. What's your favorite way to fix oatmeal?
This is so weird, but I put blueberries and cream cheese in it, and it's like cheesecake.
It sounds like cheesecake. Wow, what a great idea.
It's like my most popular blog recipe, and it's like not even really a recipe, but it's so good. I love it.
I think sometimes the simplest things are the best things anyway, right? That's, your audience probably, it's 3 ingredients and it's so easy.
Yeah, I know, and they go crazy for it. So I'm going to be an oatmeal blog.
Do you ever eat like that for dessert?
No, that's more, I eat it for like breakfast, lunch, and dinner some days.
I have at times, like I have this super stupid concoction that I put together. It's like oatmeal with a little bit of peanut butter and a little bit of chocolate, and I just make enough that I can just have a couple of spoonfuls because it's actually really filling.
Oatmeal fills you up forever. That's why I love it.
It does fill you up forever. And the other thing I love about it is like I have a sweet tooth, and that kind of satisfies my sweet tooth without a lot of bad stuff. Yeah,
so it's like the cream cheese thing kind of helps because I put a little bit of like stevia in it, so it's sweet. And, it makes me feel like I'm cheating, which I'm not at all. So.
It's perfect. I love it. Okay, so what's the favorite app on your phone?
Aside from Instagram, because I feel like that's a given.
Yeah.
I like my notes.
Ah, yes. I think my note, that is it's sometimes it's one of those apps on our phones that's underutilized. It can be.
I use it for everything. I have so many notes. So without that, I don't know how I would function at all.
I use my notes a lot. I mean, I'm with you. Like I will actually, I have one called My Favorite Sayings. And so when I'm out and about and I hear somebody say something and I think, oh, I love the way that line worked together. Or if I'm reading a book, like I have been reading, it's right here in front of me. I might as well grab it. And I'm embarrassed to say, I can't just say it off the top of my head, which is Virginia Woolf's A Room of One's Own. And she has all these really cool, like she'll say something like a delicious something or other. And I think, I love the use of a word that's related to cooking used in a different way. So I kind of write down little phrases I like that. So
That's so fun. It's fun just to write stuff down.
yes, that's right. So I like that. You use your notes basically kind of like your editorial calendar.
Yep, I use it for everything. And if I think of something funny that I want to say about a recipe or something that I'm making, I can write it in my notes, and then I have it when I want to write that post. You know what I mean?
So do you create a different post for each recipe you're working on?
Yep, I do.
What a smart idea. I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, super, super smart. And then by the time you sit down at the computer, it's like your post is written for you, right?
I know. It's like so easy. It's just ready to go. Wham, bam. Thank you, ma'am.
Wow, that is really cool. I did do also I talked to Christine Pittman back on one of the episodes of the podcast, and she actually would use her notes, and she would use the voice to text button and just speak it in there.
I haven't gotten that savvy, but maybe I'll have to.
Yeah, she actually will go for a walk and dictate her posts as she's walking.
She's a brilliant woman.
I know.
Start that.
I love anything that makes me. I feel like I like to be physical, and so for me to be able to stand up and do something, I love that.
Yes, me too. That's
okay,
great.
So you sound so crazy busy, and I can't even imagine that you do this. But do you have time for TV? And if you do, what's your favorite show?
I do have time for TV these days. Ever since I have a VA, me and the hubs, we just finished binge watching The Walking Dead, and now we are on Revenge.
Ooh, those are two shows I've heard about, but I haven't watched. Are they good?
Oh my gosh, we are so addicted to them. It's bad.
It's like that moment that you can't wait for it. Do you want to get to the end, but then you're kind of disappointed when it's over too?
Exactly. Like we were kind of sad with it when we finished, because now we're caught up on The Walking Dead, and it doesn't start again until February 14th, and we were kind of like, now we can't watch it for 4 hours every night.
What will we do with ourselves?
Like, what will we do? We have to talk? Like, what is this? Oh my gosh! No one told me this. I had to sign up for this when I got married. What? I'm totally kidding.
I know you are.
But yes,
that's cool. I'm gonna have to put both those shows on my list because I've heard about them and they sound really cool.
They are very good. You will get addicted.
So how can people find you online?
Well, you can go to www.foodfaithfitness.com, and then on all social media, so Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, Google+, all of them, I'm at foodfaithfit.
Ah, good. Okay, so the same on across everything, huh?
Yep.
YouTube as well?
That, I think I am Taylor Kiser.
Taylor Kiser. Okay, good.
Yep.
Excellent, Taylor. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk with me. I had a really great time.
I did too. Thank you so much for having me. It was great.
Thanks to Taylor Kiser for being my guest on today's episode of the Chopped Podcast. I hope you loved today's episode. I know we loved putting it together for you. There are several ways you can support the Chopped Podcast. You can leave reviews on iTunes or Stitcher or whatever platform you use to listen to this podcast. You can share it on social media with your friends, and you can share it on your own blog or podcast. All of these things make a huge difference, and it means a lot. You inspire me, so I hope today's show was helpful and inspirational to you as well. Thanks for listening, and have a great week.